Hi there, this is Miss Pulliam, and it's time for library. This is library for week 6 and grades 3 through 5. Hello, everybody. I also have somebody special here with me today, my son, Mr. Kelvin.
Mr. Kelvin.
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Pulliam.
We are going to have fun today because we're going to do this differently. I'm going to go ahead and do the lesson, and then afterwards, which is a great book, you're going to enjoy this. And then afterwards, Mr. Kelvin is going to read The Losers Club for you. Okay?
Yes.
So that'll be great. I'm going to start right here. And this lesson's a little bit different. I've put things together a little bit differently. Before we get started, I'd like you to think about something. What does it mean to be cool? If you were here, I'd be writing all these down, but I want you to think about what does it mean to be cool? Okay, seriously think about that as we go through and we do this story. Okay, first we'll start with our vocabulary review, as we always do. From the book Penguin Dilemma, buoyant. And what does buoyant mean? Able to float. Very good. All right. From the book The Good Egg. How much is a dozen? Mr. Calvin, can you help me with that? How much is a dozen?
A dozen is 12.
12. Thank you, sir.
Of course.
Oh. This is a word from the book I'm doing this week, but for them it's for next week. Delectable. I love this word, and this is a really easy one that's going to stick in your minds and go into your word bank. And the word is delectable, and it means delicious. It's from Giraffe Problems, and delectable. So easy peasy. Mom's dinner was absolutely delectable, and it's a word that we can use throughout the day, don't you think? I mean, we can use it here and there.
Time.
Exactly. So, and that's the thing. Practice. Use these words so they'd stay. And I try to do that myself. Oh, we're having lunch together, and I'm like, oh, isn't this sandwich delectable? And we go back and forth with these type of things. So if we do that, it goes in, and hopefully it stays there. But it should for you guys. Okay, we're going to go over the new words. Those are words from last week. The new words are swagger, which is to walk or behave in a very confident and typically arrogant or aggressive way. He swaggered down the hallway. Swagger. The next one, very similar, is strutted. Walk with a stiff, erect, and apparently arrogant or conceited gait. So peacocks strut through the grounds of the golf course. So there you go. You got your strut. You strutting on down. That's right. Swagger is kind of a little more like this. Your strut is a little more like this, kind of straight. And the last word, we only have 3 this week, is gesture. Easy, but interesting enough, it's not just any gestures. I looked it up. Is they're saying a movement of part of the body, especially a hand or the head, to express an idea or meaning. It's like Alex made a kind gesture of apology. My gesture to my son, I love you, without saying it. Here we go. There's my gesture. Kind of cool. Thank you. Right back at me, huh? So we've done the vocabulary, and you guys are thinking about what it means to be cool. You're gonna love this story. It's called The Cool Bean. That's right, The Cool Bean. It's by Jory John, and I think this is the last book I have of his right now. One of these days, I'll get to the library or order some more books. In the meantime, though, I have some other books coming in today. I'm waiting on a package, so I'm very excited. Okay, let's check these out. These books are fantastic. All right, The Cool Bean by Jory John. Here we go. Watch out, here come the cool beans. The cool beans. Oh, yeah, check out how they move. Look at the way they swagger. Notice their sunglasses. Yow! The cool beans are known all over the school, from house to house, across town, beyond county lines. In the olden days last year, don't you love that? The olden days last year, not really old, but it is, in the past, we were all one big pot of beans. We were a mixed bag, but somehow it worked. And they say mixed bag, of course, they're meaning they were all a little bit different, but it worked together. Yep, those were the good old days. And then we stopped seeing each other as much. That's just how it is sometimes. You spend less time together, even though you're not totally sure why. And here we go. And it's sad when you think about it. Okay. I watched as the beans I knew so well, the beans from my own pod, became the cool beans. Oh, they were so cool. One of them could play the guitar. Cool. One of them could draw the best superheroes. Cool. And one of them could jump higher than any bean I'd ever known. Very, very cool. Me? Well, I mostly stayed the same. Sure, I made some small changes. I wore sunglasses. They're too big. He's got his Ray-Bans though. I'm sorry, Ray-Beans. It says Ray-Bean. And he says here they're too big, which they're huge. And so he got sunglasses. He says, I slicked my hair back, but it was too slick. I strutted around, and as he's strutting, his foot he hits a rock. So he's like, ah, and I swaggered, but as he's swaggering, he stepped on a banana peel. So he's having a rough time. See his Ray-Beans glasses? Very cool. But he's not one of the cool people, he's just trying to be him. I was still picked last for everything. My clothes never seemed to fit. I snorted when I laughed. I walked into stuff. It shows here he's walking into a door. I was an uncool bean for sure. I started thinking of myself as just a common bean with no special skills. I couldn't compete, so I didn't even try. I'd never be a cool bean. So now he's on the sidelines watching others have fun because he's afraid that he's not cool and that he'll just have trouble doing any of these cool activities. It seemed like there were two types of beans in the world. There were the cool beans and the beans like me. So in this picture here, you'll see the cool beans. Cool beans are sitting and they're laying on floats, and they're having a drink, and they're just in the water, just having a good old time. And then there's him. He doesn't know how to swim. He's on the beach, and he's got a floaty around him. Remember those floaties that you put around your head and they go around your waist? They are fun though. But poor thing, I just feel for him. And oh, he's got his arm floaties on too. So he's got the arm things on, and he's got the thing around here. And he's at Laguna Beach. Legume. The days all blended together. I lived my life, and things were just okay. I took tests and ate lunches and mostly kept to myself. The cool beans continued being cool. I mean, sure, I missed them a bit, but it's not like I was going to say anything. I felt all that coolness had gotten in the way of our friendship, and that's how it went. Until one day. I love when the story's going to turn around, something positive happened. I was in the cafeteria and I dropped my lunch on my loafers. First of all, loafers are shoes. Okay, they're a type of shoe. And he's like, oh no, not again. So his food's all over the floor. But then something sort of miraculous happened. One out of nowhere, one of the cool beans helped me clean it up. He didn't even say anything. He just gave me a nod, and that was it. Later, I was out on the playground. I tripped, and I scraped my knee and maybe cried a little. And everyone saw me. And another one of the cool beans came to my side. And without a word, he dusted me off. And you see, he's putting a bandage around his leg. So, how sweet, Isn't that what life's about? Taking care of others and being kind to others and doing for other people because it makes you feel good and it helps them at the same time. That afternoon, I was sitting in class. I wasn't really paying attention. I didn't notice, but our teacher had called on me. Everybody stared. I sat there in silence. Nobody said anything. And then everybody just laughed at me. How do you think he feels right now? That was it. After today, I was officially a has-been. I'm sorry, a has-been. Not a has-been, but a has-been. Also, the teacher it says here, Mr. Bean's English class. So I love looking at those little things that you'll find in the illustrations. A lot of time they put some cute things in there that you just have to look for. How fun. They're laughing at him makes me very sad. But then one of the cool beans stood up and came over to me. Everybody watched. She leaned in close and whispered, "Hey, the teacher asked you to read from page 32." Then she gave me a quick wink and went back to her seat. It was a small gesture, a kindness, sure, but it was also everything. So it meant everything to him. As a matter of fact, he's reading a book right here, The Great Gatsby, which, like The Great Gatsby. Love that kind of stuff. Let's see. I walked home with a goofy smile on my face. I smiled all the way through dinner. That day made all the difference. It was a day that could have been really bad if not for the kindness of a few other beans, cool beans. It gave me a shred of confidence. That shred of confidence has continued to grow. It's all about confidence. Somebody had my back, or a few somebodies. After that, I started hanging out with the cool beans again. How have you been? Get it? How have you been? Not all the time, but sometimes. And I ate lunch, at lunch, after school, even on weekends. So now he's got friends to hang out with, to look after him, to catch his back. Throughout all this, I realized that it's not about how you look or any of other of that silly stuff. It just none of that matters. It's about a wink or a nod, a smile, a nod or a smile at just the right moment. It's about dusting somebody off, helping them up again, and pointing them in the right direction. Powerful stuff. Really like the meaning in this. You need a hand? Now that's cool. So now he paid it forward. People were kind to him, and now somebody else is falling and he's helping them. And I just think that's so cool. And the cool beans thought so too. They thought, hey, you know what? We helped you, you helped somebody else. That's what it's about. Let's see what this book that they have here. The book says it's called A Midsummer Night's Bean. Oh, and he's got A Tale of Two Chickpeas. Very cool. Frankenbean. There's a book, Frankenbean, too. Love that. Okay, so let's talk about this book. It was a really good book, wasn't it? Let's talk about, at the beginning, I said, think about what does it mean to be cool. And in one of my classes, I just asked my students, and I've got some of the things that they said. What we're going to do now is we're going to discuss what is the lesson that they're trying to tell us in this story. Mr. Kelvin, did you find the lesson that they're trying to tell us in this story? Remember with glasses?
Oh, the lessons.
Yeah, the lessons in here. What did you learn from this story?
So in this story, we have this bean who's trying to do a lot of things to look cooler, but it's not really him being himself, is it?
No, you're right. It's
He's
not.
trying to be someone else.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Slicking back his hair, walking and strutting. That's why he fell. And then he slipped on the banana when he was swaggering because that's not him.
He's not built to be someone else. He's built to be him.
Exactly. And you know what? And as we know, like everybody's fabulous and fantastic the way we are, right?
Of course. All the time.
Did you note too, and I love that, also in here, the small gestures they're talking about, being cool has nothing to do with the cool glasses. He threw them in the garbage, and those were his nice Ray Beans.
The Ray Beans.
He's the Ray Beans. And he threw them in the garbage. He's like, you know what, this is not what it's about. Okay, it's just it's about being kind and people just doing something for another person. When I asked some students, I said, "What's it mean to be need to be cool?" One of them had said, "Nice and kind to others," and I thought that she actually gets it. She totally gets it, and she said that prior to reading the story. And now another young man was like, "Oh yeah, ain't gangsta like," and I was like, "Okay." And what he means by that, I'm sure, is you think the cool guys, they're all hanging together, the whole swagger, whatnot. But we learn in this book, and as we should know, that we are all special, and that being kind, and we talk about this all the time, being kind to others is what it's about because it goes full circle. You're kind to
Absolutely.
somebody, they're kind to somebody, and it goes around. And with the way the world is right now, kindness is really where it's at. To do something for somebody else. Okay, I'm glad you enjoyed that book. I know you enjoyed it. We are 15 minutes in, so we have time. Oh, wait a minute. Did I have anything else I wanted to ask you? Let me see. The lesson. Okay, real quickly, some of the which cool qualities from our list did we see in the book? And which would be on this would be the nice and kind to others because that was right in there. Are there any qualities that you were thinking of earlier that were in this book? Okay. When has a cool bean? This is really what I want you to think about. When has a cool bean been cool to you, and how did it make you feel? Not a good one.
No, that's a good question.
So let me think here. I just went to my first class, and a student, I've known my students a long time. A student brought me in a soda. He's like, "This is for you. I got this for you." And I thought, wasn't that sweet? It's the kind I drink. And it was just such a kindness. And when somebody does a kindness, it puts a big smile on somebody else's face. It does something for both people. And that's the amazing part. And so I'm sure you've done kindnesses for other people, and I'm sure it made you feel really awesome. So think about that.
May I share a story
Please,
from
would
this
you
morning?
share? Yes.
Yes, as I was in school this morning, I was attempting to find my first class, and I'll be honest, I felt like the bean in the book who had just dropped his stuff. I felt like I was
Right.
making a fool of myself. And a young boy asked me, "Hey, which classroom are you looking for?"
Oh.
And I told him the teacher's name, and he goes, "That's my class. I'll show you the way." And he took
Oh.
me right there. And then trying to get my cart in because I had the art cart.
Right.
There was a chair in the way, and he pulled it out for me, helped me get in.
Oh.
It definitely was a good
Warms your
start to the
heart.
day. Oh yeah,
Yeah, and it warms your heart. That's awesome.
he
Thank
was a
you for
cool
sharing
kid.
that. Yeah, definitely. He is definitely a cool bean.
Oh
That
yeah,
is so
very cool
awesome.
bean.
That's what it's about. And you know, something so little made your day, put this huge smile. You're going to
Oh
have a
yeah,
wonderful day. And you thanked him. And now he too has a big smile, feels confident, and he's there too. So it's really wonderful what it can do.
no, it was great.
I love it. Love it. Thank you. Um, One other thing, my friends, is there was something I wanted to mention. It'll come to me though. um, they don't do okay, it's gonna come to me. Oh. One thing before we go on to the other book and read a chapter or two. I talk about this all the time, and I'm going to. It is so important, my friends, that you read aloud at home. Okay, reading aloud is the next step. It really is. It's so important. Um, as you know, I'm loud, but when I was your age, I wasn't. Okay, I worked hard, spent a lot of years perfecting this loudness of mine. But when I was a child, I couldn't have my voice project to the back of the room. But when I'm talking to a class, when I'm talking to a group, I make sure that anybody, no matter where they are, they can hear me in that room. One of the greatest ways to do that: read to a friend. Read at home to your parent. Read to a big brother. You do a page, he does a page. That's always fun, or do it with your parents. Um, Read to grandma when you're on the computer with her, or you're on the phone with her. Things like that. You can read them, wait a minute, into the mirror too. You can look in the mirror and just sit there and read and go, wait a minute, maybe I should be louder, or hey, look, I'm doing pretty good. I look great.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that helps you build the confidence too, seeing yourself
that's
reading.
exactly, yes, exactly. We also, I tell kids they can read to a stuffed animal or their pet. We have a lot of students that read to their pets, and I love those pictures. With that being said, my friends, send me some pictures. Okay, I'd like to see pictures of you reading with your pets. So tell your parents to take a picture, and you can email it to me at lpulliam@winthropcharter.org, and I'll put it in the next newsletter. Okay, hope you enjoyed the book. I sure did. We're going to go ahead and read about 2 chapters, yeah, because we're 20 past, of the book and the Losers Club. And Mr. Kelvin said he'd like to do that, so I'll step aside. Here we go, sir.
Thank you. So 2 chapters.
Yeah, we could
Oh,
20 minutes,
it's
two or
gonna,
three.
yeah, I can do it.
Yeah, 2 or 3. I know you can do it.
Well, hi there, guys. Today we'll be continuing our reading of The Losers Club, and I will start us right at where we left off on page 76. And as Nina booted another pop fly and then ran out and smacked a big high five with Kent, Alec thought, yep, the name fits. Just when he thought things couldn't get worse, off to his left, he heard the squeak, squeak of Miss Case's running shoes, and then she was standing there, blocking his view of Nina. She smiled briefly at Lily. Then she said to Alec, Mr. Wilner told me that your club is already growing. That's so nice. What book did the group decide to read first? Alec said, We don't do it that way. We read whatever we want to. Miss Case frowned. But I thought you would choose one book and then read it and have a discussion. Isn't that how a book club works? Alec was in no mood to try and make Miss Case happy. Some book clubs are like that, but this is just a club for kids who like to read. That's what I wrote on the application form, so that's what we're doing. Miss Case was quiet for a second. Then she said, But if you're all just sitting here reading by yourselves every day, it's hard to imagine what you'll do for your open house presentation. I'm sorry to bring this up again, but yesterday Miss Vance told me she has a scheduling problem. So the extended day open house is going to be part of the all-school open house this year, which means there will be about 500 kids and parents there. I'm really hoping we can show everyone what an excellent program this is. Do you have any ideas about what you'll do yet? For the club presentation? Alec shrugged. We'll figure something out. Miss Case opened her mouth as if she had more to say about that. But she smiled as best she could and said, Well, have a happy afternoon. And then she turned and squeaked away. Lily looked over at Alec and said, I know the open house is still a long time away and everything, but, like, the origami kids, they started talking about their ideas on the very first day. So, what are we going to do for the open house? Alec answered her in his mind, with sarcasm, like a blast from the Death Star. I'm going to announce. And now, Nina will pretend to be reading as she plays kickball with Kent. But he managed a small smile for Lily. Like I told Miss Case, we'll figure something out. Until then, I'm going to keep on reading. And that, my friends, takes us to chapter 15, titled Two Bets. So, did you see me? I kicked that ball a mile. Nina was breathless. Lily didn't react at all. She was deep in her story. Plus, she knew Nina wasn't talking to her. Alec looked up from his book. What? Which was kind of a lie. He'd been watching everything. He had also been watching Miss Case would go grab Nina and send her back to her correct activity. Where was the rules lady when she was actually needed? Nina pulled off her pale blue sweatshirt and sat down kitty corner from him. Her face was flushed, and random strands of brown hair were pasted to her forehead. Still panting, she said, You should have seen me. I was playing kickball, and I was good at it, too. Alex smiled. Great. Then he had to ask, But how come Miss Case didn't make you go to your club table? Simple, Nina said. I asked Mr. Jensen if I could go learn some kickball today, just in case I switch over to Active Games Club. No problem. Alex stared at her. Switch? He could barely say the word. Is that what you're going to do? Nina stared right back. Are you kidding? Kent called me a wimp last night when he was over playing basketball with Richie. And when I walked into the gym just now, he bet me an ice cream sandwich that I couldn't make 3 good kicks in a row. Oh, Alex said. He made himself smile. He was glad to hear she had only been playing because of a bet. Except, Nina hadn't exactly looked like a prisoner over there. She'd looked like she'd been having a pretty wonderful time with Kent the Handsome, Kent the Charming, Kent the Kickball Champion of the Galaxy. Nina added, Guess who's getting a free ice cream sandwich tomorrow at lunch? Me. And when Kent comes over to see Richie again tonight, he's going to help me get better at basketball too. Because I'm terrible at basketball, especially layups. Alec was still making himself smile, and again he said, Great. Then he looked down at his book. It was time to end this conversation. But Nina said, What are you reading? He held up the cover so she could see it. She squinted. Ray Bradbury? I've never heard of him. Alex said, He's really famous, or that's what my dad told me. This book was his back when he was in 8th grade, one of his favorites. Nina looked at the book. It's really old, actually. Like, a lot of your books are old, practically antiques. Like, that copy of Treasure Island in your backpack, that book is ancient. So what, he said. And anyway, books aren't like that. A good book is either good or it isn't. And if it's good, it never gets old. Okay, Nina said, but you have to admit a lot of the books that you like aren't modern. When was the last time you ate bread? Alec asked. What's that got to do with anything? Answer the question. I ate bread today, at lunchtime. And is bread modern? No. Exactly, he said. Bread has been around for almost forever, and bread is either good or bad, just like books. Nina was done arguing. Pointing, she said, So tell me about this one. It's a bunch of short stories, science fiction. She wrinkled her nose. I don't like science fiction much. Rockets and aliens and stuff. Alec was about to remind her that A Wrinkle in Time is science fiction, and she must have read When You Reach Me, because if you read Wrinkle, you have to have read Reach Me. And what about The Giver? More sci-fi. But instead of starting another argument, he had a better idea. Tell you what, he said. Read this one story called All Summer in a Day, and if you don't like it, I'll owe you another ice cream sandwich. But if you do like it, you'll owe one to me. It'll only take a few minutes. Is it a bet? He slid the book down the table to her. She shrugged and smiled and picked up the book. Sure, it's a bet. Nina opened to the story and began reading. Alec pulled out his worn copy of Treasure Island. He opened the book and propped it up, but he didn't read. He watched Nina's face. She was only on the first page, and she was already hooked. As he watched her, Alec replayed the story in his mind and tried to guess which part she was reading. Nina had been breathing hard from her kickball workout, but as she read on, she grew more and more still, until it seemed like only her eyes were moving, word to word and line to line. Alec knew when Nina reached the part where the kids were so mean to Margot, he saw the emotion on her face. And when she got to the very end, he saw that too. Her mouth puckered into a deep frown, and her eyebrows were low and bunched together. She sat and stared like that for at least 10 seconds. Then she noticed Alec watching her. She turned her head and tried to smile at him, and he saw that her eyes were damp. Wow, she whispered. That's amazing. And it didn't feel like science fiction. Not at all. She brushed at her eyes with the back of one hand and looked at the book again. Alec was pretty sure she was rereading the last few sentences, just as he had. And again she whispered, Wow. Nina closed the book and the spell was broken. She slid it back along the table to Alec. When you're done with that, would you ask your dad if I can borrow it? Alec said, He gave it to me. You can borrow it anytime. Great, Nina said, and then she smiled. And tomorrow at lunch when Kent pays me my ice cream sandwich, I'll bring it straight to you before it melts. Alec laughed. Nice. And then he said, But how about if we split it? Still smiling, Nina nodded. Deal. Lily looked up at them, a small disapproving frown on her face. Alex said, Sorry, we're done talking now. It's okay. I'm at a really exciting part, that's all. But as the table got quiet, just for a moment there, Alec wished that this reading club was the way Miss Case wanted it to be. Because he wondered what else Nina thought about that story. About the characters, about the way the setting felt totally real, about the kids who were so mean, sort of the way Kent was mean to him. And Alec was curious to know if Nina was the kind of reader who wondered what happened after a story ended, because he did that all the time. But this wasn't that kind of a book club. So for the next hour and a half, life among the losers was quiet and solitary. Except every once in a while, Nina glanced over her shoulder at the kickball game. And every now and then, Alec glanced across the table at Nina, until he noticed how often he was looking at her. Immediately, he made himself focus on his book, made himself dive deep into the science fiction and stay there. Some of the stories were scary, but letting himself look at Nina and think about her, that felt much scarier. In the back of his mind, he remembered what his dad said on Saturday about not using books as a hideout. And he knew that was exactly what he was doing. And he kept doing it anyway. That concludes chapter 15. We're at half an hour now.
Okay, you know what? Why don't you stretch a moment, and we'll know where we are for the next time. We could do some stretching, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right.
Sound good?
Sounds great.
We need to remember what page you're on for mobile learners.
So that is going to be page 85.
Okay. So we did this. So you want to do your stretching?
Yeah, we can do some stretches.
Okay. Oh, right. Shall we? All right. I know myself and Mr. Calvin, we love to stretch, and it feels so good on your back.
Oh, it's great.
It doesn't it also help make you feel like you're more awake?
Oh, it wakes me up easy.
Exactly. So we're going to do a quick stretch, and then we're going to go ahead and call it a class because we've taken care of everything today. Okay. So hands in the air. Oh, that's right. Reach them up there. All right. All right. Let's put them down. Okay. Now put them on your shoulders. Reach back like this. Oh, you feel that?
I felt
I
that.
like twist a little bit. You know what I like to do too is roll. When you do it like this, you can feel like chills down your back.
That's right
You
in
feel
my,
that?
yeah, like the back of my neck.
Yes.
area. Ooh.
Oh, I like that. Okay. But it's so important to stretch. Makes you feel better, keeps you moving. Don't forget to eat your healthy snacks. Okay, that's very important. Read at home, read aloud, and be kind to others. Have a great day, my friends.
Bye-bye, guys.